From the Startup Experts community, this is the Becoming Better podcast, and I'm its host, Jesse Freese. Tanaz, it's so wonderful to have you on the Becoming Better podcast. Thank you for joining us, and would you mind introducing yourself and tell us what you're doing in your day job?
Yeah, sure. Jesse, good to see you as well. Thanks so much for having me. I'm currently an operating partner at Lerer Hippeau, and I focus in on the people and talent side of things. And so my role kind of brings together all my past experience into one nice package where I was previously an operator with early stage companies. I worked at a handful of them that scaled and had multiple different types of outcomes. And so my role at Lerer Hippeau is specifically to partner with our founders as they are going on those journeys from both a people and talent perspective, as more of a advisor, consultant, versus in the weeds as an operator, as I was doing previously.
No, that's amazing. And thank you for joining. You were selected as one of our 25 leaders to follow in 2025 earlier in the year, and really just wanted to celebrate you in this short form conversation. Before we get into things that you're doing as an operator and the support that you bring those individuals that you're working with, can you share one thing that, personally you're interested in and maybe something that people don't know about you?
Well, I'm looking outside and it's fall right now up in the Northeast, and which means it's apple picking season, which is my favorite season of the whole entire year. Not only is fall such a beautiful time, but I just love going apple picking and picking all the different types of apples that you can get. And it's like the perfect temperature outside and the kids can run free. So.
Yeah, I can imagine it. But the natural follow-up there is you pick a bushel of apples, you bring them home. What's your favorite dessert or favorite thing you're cooking with those apples?
I'm going to totally throw you off, and I'm going to say I just love eating them.
Okay.
I don't even want to cook with them. I don't want to cut them up and put them anywhere, and I don't even want them in my salad. I love just eating apples.
How many apples a day is that? That's
just one a day. Let's not over.
So maybe you put them in a barrel and just go on a long boat ride.
Put them in the refrigerator.
Okay. So, one of the things that we're all about here at Startup Experts is becoming better, hence the name of this pod. What is one thing that you've learned recently that's, helped you become a better leader, better human, and so on?
Something maybe not recently, I think that I've accumulated over my past couple experiences is that, there's some professions that like you can kind of copy paste from one team to the next and one job to the next. And what's unique about the people function is that specifically it's like you can take some kind of like the templates in your mind just around like frameworks and things like that. But it is so unique to every group that you work with that you have to build certain processes and procedure. And so one performance management system that worked in one company does not mean that it's going to translate perfectly over to the next. And I think some founders specifically get that, like, don't see that right away. And they're like, this worked perfectly for me. Well, that was for a different, not only company, but different group of people. And so building something that's right for your group of people is the core of what I think builds the right culture for the leaders in place. And like that's really where I find the bulk of fun in my current role, where I get to learn more about the founders, more about their past experiences, more about the teams that they've built and the practices that they're thinking about bringing over, and then making it their own. Is kind of like the core function of what I try to do from like the initial conversations with founders. And what I've learned over the course of time that I feel like should be an obvious thing now that I know it. But when I first starting out, it was a little bit of like, oh, I can take this and just implement it here. And it's never the case.
Yeah, no, that's great. I read recently, I wish I could attribute to who wrote it, but, talking about leadership and how, different phases of a company demand a different type of leader as well. So not only does, what's worked in the past might not work in the future, but as a company evolves and as needs change, so does those leadership characteristics.
Yep.
So, I'll track that down and maybe put it in the notes.
Leadership characteristics, the way you operate as a team, right? Your communication and even the CEO's job evolves over time. And sometimes that feels painful. That's like, it just depends on kind of where they want to take it. But the roles have to keep evolving over time. But also from company to company, it needs to evolve.
Yeah, no, I can see that. What is one thing that you're excited about? One thing that you're working on today that you're excited to be getting more involved in?
One project that I'm currently working on that I'm really excited about is so I'm a one-person talent and people team, and we have over 450 portfolio companies.
Wow, spread thin.
So I don't operate within all of them, but we're seed stage investors, and so
Mhm.
we're higher. There's a higher volume there,
Yeah.
and expanding kind of the talent function is something at the core, kind of like root of what I'm trying to sort out. And just how do you kind of like break it out and make it effective in a way for a generalist early stage fund is what I've been focusing on and what I'm experimenting with. So I don't have the answer quite yet. It's going to take a little bit of time because everything in venture is a bit of a time. I don't want to say waiting game, but it does take time to accumulate the networks and the connections here. Um, but what I'm experimenting with is both technology, because I would be fooled if I didn't say AI in this, in terms of
Hmm.
like the effectiveness of the self-serve piece of networks that we've created and accessibility to our founders and even our team internally. But in addition to that, just how I can, as a human being and one person, help founders outside of agency contacts and things like that. And I'm experimenting with actually going deep in one division and seeing that if I can spend a 3 to 6 months doing that and building up that a network there, which then lean on the network to introduce me to other people within that network and really managing that from a tool perspective comes back to AI, of being able to find the right talent within that network itself, because Excel spreadsheets don't do it.
Yeah.
No. So it
Yeah.
may sound simple, but it's very time consuming and also a big data play.
Right, right. Can you tell us more? I mean, with that sort of, broad exposure to a lot of different companies, a lot of different startup leaders, is there any common characteristics that you're seeing that need to be solved again and again?
It depends on the stage.
Yeah.
For what we were talking about earlier, right? It's like seed stage companies. These people are a lot of times they're very driven by the mission and drivers of what the company is looking to do. And as you kind of, and of course they have a higher equity stake, and so it all like that all ties together very, very well. Um, they to a certain extent are willing to do any, like push through anything to make it work, and willing to put in the time is a big piece of that. And then as you kind of evolve to Series B, I guess you could say, your compensation structure works. So your incentive shifts. Sorry, they shifts, and with that, it's you get a different type of profile. You're probably
Sure.
looking at someone more senior, someone who's more seasoned, potentially in either the space or the profession itself, and their incentives are different, their scope of role is different. Uh, yeah.
Yeah. And um, how do you change as a business leader for that second phase? What is your recommendations?
What I've seen work best is actually keeping your self-awareness throughout each stage of a company is really important.
Yeah.
Um, Understanding how you're showing up and how you're guiding your team and being able to scale it over time is very important.
Yeah.
I think people think that communication is like a corporate jargon, whatever, I don't know, jargon, but like corporate thing that you have to do. No, clear communication is everything at 2 people, at 4 people, and at 400 people. Because what you're doing as a leader is you're setting very clear expectations in your clear communication. So people know what to do and when to get it done by. And that creates loyalty because they feel like they have a sense of purpose and like they know where the company's going, so they it gives them trust.
Yeah, no, I mean, that hits really home here at Startup Experts. We're doing a lot of leadership team evaluation and working on
Mhm,
our org chart. And as an all volunteer organization,
mhm.
we have achieved so much. We have a lot of interest and desire to do much, much more. But we're over 80 volunteers, believe it or not, on our Startup Experts
Amazing.
leadership team. And so it very much is an org. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of, how do we properly communicate? How do we share goals? How do we, all row in the same direction? It's
Mhm.
been a fascinating exercise to see and to try to execute well across that number of people.
Yeah. Yeah. I if I could wear, I need to get myself a hat that just says expectations on it Because like if people don't know what they need to do, they will make it up, and most likely they will probably not get it 100% right.
Yeah.
Versus as a leader, being very focused on what needs to get done and clear, like with an employee, is that's everything.
Yeah.
If people come in and they feel like they're making it up as they go, it doesn't feel very fulfilling. And then eventually it will catch up with you to where you're probably not swimming in the right direction. And who wants to be swimming and like not swimming in the right direction? Then you just have to backtrack, and that's painful. And you
Yeah.
just, especially in early stage, like I said, like your time commitment looks different. I just spent last weekend building this, and this is not what you wanted. I thought this is what you wanted. When someone's, I think, that's a trigger that like a leader has not communicated something properly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. And that might lead into this next question, but it's a hindsight question. Has there been a time in which you would do something differently? I mean, so much of this community is about learning, and we love to capture wisdom from folks that have, like myself, made many mistakes, and then hopefully allow somebody earlier in their career not to, go down my path. Is there anything that you would call out personally for you that you learned about, and in hindsight, you do something differently?
I mean, gosh, I'll go back to my first early stage startup that I was part of, and I'll say there was, and it translates actually to what I hone in a lot now with founders
Mm.
actually. So it did make a very big impact on me. It was the first startup that I was part of. It was my first leadership role within the people and talent function. And so we had an employee that was toxic, and but he was great at what he did. He
Yeah.
was exceptional at what he did. CEO said, just leave it, let it be. It'll be fine. It'll blow over. And both of it, like it was his first time being a founder. It was my first time being a people leader. I was like, okay, I don't want to disrupt the business.
Yeah.
But what was actually happening was that the whole entire team was trying to create workarounds and just trying to figure out different ways to do things so they weren't interacting with this person. And what came to be is eventually we parted ways. They went their way, and we continued on. And without this person, everything was fine. And in hindsight, it was don't be fearful of it. And if you see it, everyone else sees it too. And so it now has translated one in like if you know someone's not a fit, move on. It's okay if they're really skilled. Let them go be exceptional somewhere else where they work very well with that group. And where that's translated now to my current role is one of the first things I do with our founders after an investment, and this is seed stage. And so I go in and I'm like, look, I'm not going to start building your performance management. You're a team of three. That's not my goal here. I want you to be thoughtful about what you're building and how you guys are operating together and what that means. And so we pull on past experiences of great teams, not so great teams, great employees, not so great employees, of like what has stood out and what do you care about and how do you want to function as a team in terms of what's acceptable and what's not. And then this can be your source of truth as you're going forward and trying to make decisions of how you work together and the people that are on your team. And it's a lot of fun to do it. I think co-founders have fun kind of brainstorming together and then utilizing it as they are making some harder decisions early on and trying to drive the business forward, being like, this person's really great at the skill, but from a team perspective, there's something that's missing. And saying it's okay, it's okay, it's okay can actually halt the business in other ways that are not directly correlated even to that person. And it actually affects other people.
Yeah, I mean, that is such a solid piece of advice. My day job with Sequoia, I don't quite have 400 clients or 400 companies I'm managing, but I have over 100.
Yeah.
And, I've seen a lot of different permutations and mixtures of teams and leadership
Mhm.
teams. And your comment on, if there is, uh, a leader that is not as effective, I'll be generous. It really, you can see it across the entire organization, and that compensation that other people have to do to offset an ineffective leader really has a negative, effect on the company. So good call out.
When I have founders that are like, everyone's going to wonder what's going on. I'm like, no one's going to wonder what's going on. Everyone's going to say, I thank you. Like, great. The bar is high here. Like I do have to be like the right teammate to everybody, or I do have to continue to show up and put my best output out. Um, a lot more people observe it than I think founders give it credit for.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of like a big learning, and setting that stage early on is important.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, great things can happen with great leaders, but also, the organizations where we have challenges with, uh, abuse of HR policies or folks
Mhm.
that, sort of just ghost or ineffective and have a lot of performance management issues, usually it's tied back to the leader of the company and the culture that's been created.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Very
like being
interesting.
explicit about that and getting the operating kind of side not out of the way, but like written down
Yeah.
gives founders a sense of truth to reflect back to.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. So it's been a great conversation. It's so awesome to sit down with you. You want to keep these short, and I want to appreciate you for being, celebrated as one of our
Yes,
25
thank
leaders to
you.
follow. I can tell by this conversation, why you were selected. It's actually amazing. I don't really have a hand in selecting the 25 leaders. I just kind of get the opportunity to celebrate them.
Thank you.
But before we depart, is there one, quick piece of advice that you would share out to the crew here?
Keep building your story. I think startups are really hard.
Yeah.
I think like I've seen success, I've seen enough failure, a lot of failures too. And I think like don't let one skew you heavily in any direction. Your career is a journey and like enjoy the ride, both the ups and the downs, and learn from it and like continue learning from it because early stage companies are not easy. And thinking that it's easy because you've had success is definitely not the right way to go. And also, just because you failed does not mean it's going to continue to be the same pattern as long as you learn from it.
Yeah.
So I would say enjoy the journey.
Awesome. Yeah, no, solid advice. And thank you again for joining us.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to this Becoming Better with Startup Experts discussion. If you're interested in learning more about our community and perhaps joining, please visit www.startupexperts.us.